For months, there was speculation about whether or not Donald Trump would be impeached, from the informal inquiry to the formal inquiry to the impeachment, hearings with the Harvard professors, and then finally they voted for impeachment, stopped short, never actually sent the files over to the Senate, and so now people are arguing Trump was never impeached in the first place. And already, I kid you not, Democrats and people on the left are already preparing for Trump's second impeachment. How can we go on this way as a country? I kid you not, look at this. Look at the story from the Washington Post. Could Democrats impeach Trump twice? They might have to. And they go through this argument. I want to read some of this for you. But guess what? It's not just someone's opinion. It's literally House counsel suggests Trump could be impeached again. Let me ask you a question. They rushed through the first impeachment process to try and get it done before Christmas. And now Nancy Pelosi won't send the managers and won't send she won't file with the Senate. What was the point of rushing if you weren't going to file anyway? More importantly, they're arguing Trump needs to be impeached twice. Why wouldn't you just wait to collect evidence? The whole thing seems like a political process sham. They're just trying to generate some kind of partisan thing to help them. I don't know what their plan is, because the longer they draw this out, the more Trump's approval rating goes up, the more money he brings in donations. It seems to make absolutely no sense. One of the Democrats, Jared Golden, who voted against the articles, one of the articles, stated that the obstruction article was not legitimate because the Democrats did not try to rectify the problem. That if the Democrats were really upset with Trump obstructing a witness, they need to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court would then issue a ruling saying, Trump, you must do it. Trump could appeal. And then if Trump loses, he then has to have his witnesses appear. But they never tried that. The Democrats rushed through, accused Trump of obstruction without ever filing with the Supreme Court. And thus, even a Democrat from Maine said, no, you can't do that. Now what's happening is they're arguing for a second impeachment on the exact same thing, saying, well, Don McGahn needs to testify. And if we get new evidence of obstruction, then we got more articles of impeachment. The whole thing is absolutely stupid. I'll tell you this. There were already 2 articles of impeachment, none of which are statutory crimes, the first time in U.S. history. If they filed another article of impeachment, wouldn't that still just be one impeachment? It's not like the 2 articles means he was impeached twice, does it? I'll tell you what, man, it's a holiday and I'm working. And I gotta say, I can't help but be surprised that we, even on this wonderful Christmas Eve, we can count on reading absolutely absurd and insane news. Now check this out. This is from today, from the Washington Post. Paul Waldman of the Washington Post writes, while we wait for Mitch McConnell and the White House to figure out whether they can get away with beginning and ending President Trump's impeachment trial in an afternoon, a provocative new question has been raised. Once impeachment is over, presumably with an acquittal in the Senate, could House Democrats impeach Trump for a second time? Don't dismiss it as an absurd idea just yet. Yes, no, I'm sorry, stop. I will dismiss this as an absurd idea. This is nuts. No statutory crime. They just don't like the guy. And there are people on Twitter, I think it was a senator, a Democrat, saying we should withhold, we shouldn't, Nancy Pelosi shouldn't send the articles over because it's driving Republicans mad. No, it isn't. They didn't want the impeachment in the first place. The longer you sit on it, they don't care. It's only going to hurt Bernie Sanders and other Democrats running for 2020. I can't tell what the plan is. I'll tell you what, though. It sure seems like the establishment Democrats are actually trying to hurt the Democrats. Maybe they don't like the populist wave that's coming, so they'd rather Trump win. I honestly have no idea. But Paul says not to dismiss it as an absurd idea. I will. I'm sorry. Think about how insane our country is becoming, that we would have the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice with no statutory crimes on either. That just seems nuts. Like, come on, man. Things are really getting freaky and kind of breaking down. I get it, man. You don't like the guy. But he was elected to be the president. You're going to have to sit this one out. And then when you get a chance in 2020, try and vote for somebody. But you know what the problem is? And I said it a million times, they're not campaigning on anything. Okay. Let's get back to the story about second impeachment. Before we get started, I will give a shout out. It is Christmas. I know some of you probably don't celebrate Christmas. Maybe it's Hanukkah or Festivus or Kwanzaa or whatever it is you celebrate. Hey man, more power to you, more respect. Believe what you want to believe. I hope you're having a good time. I hope you're feeling positive and optimistic. We got a new year coming up. And if you want to support my work on this wonderful holiday week or so, you can go to timcast.com/donate, figure out how you'd like to support my work, or just share this video. I know echo chambers kind of control everything, so it is what it is. But I just want to let you know on this holiday, period, I am extremely grateful for all of you, and simply the fact that you're watching my video at all is one of the greatest gifts to me, and I really do mean that. I am tremendously lucky to be able to just be a person who gets to talk to a camera all day and make a living doing it. It's like a dream job for me, and we're doing a lot of really awesome things behind the scenes with expanding journalism. You can tell that I'm traveling right now, so there's some plans in the works, and trust me when I say I work nonstop, even on the holidays. So thank you so much for watching. Let's get back to the opinion piece from the Washington Post, and then we'll jump over to the facts. He says, don't dismiss it as an absurd idea just yet. Not only might it happen, but it also might be absolutely necessary. At the very least, considering the possibility will help us understand just how deep our governing crisis could get if Trump wins a second term in office. No. Okay, that's it. That's the final straw. Our governing crisis, it could get worse. It's the Democrats making it worse. Trump is doing a bunch of wacky and wild things, sure, but the world isn't ending. Things are getting better. Let me stop right now. I didn't want to have to do this, but I have to do this. Take a look at this. From TechCrunch, Black Friday sees record spending and online sales, $2.9 billion spent using smartphones. It wasn't a record for in-store, for brick and mortar shops, but it was a record. How about this? Saturday shopping sets U.S. one-day sales record, analyst says. Christmas shopping sets one-day sales record. I'm sorry, man. The economy is doing well. I did a segment the other day from, I was reading Vox.com, V-O-X. I know you check it out, youtube.com/TimCastNews. It's my other channel. Vox, which is left-leaning, said, the economy is bad for Democrats. They can't hide from it anymore. In the Democratic debates, they're pretending the economy is doing bad, and it's the craziest thing to me. Listen, man, I think Trump is, his policies and his strategies are a bit dejected, right? It's like Trump kind of just jolts around back and forth and makes plans as he goes. But you can't deny the economy is doing well, and people like what's happening. The Democrats' only option then is to pretend like everything's getting worse. Black Friday record sales, Christmas record sales, people can recognize this. So when you get the left-wing publication Vox saying Democrats' only option is to deny the good economy, you want to tell me there's a governing crisis? No. It's Democrats lying about the economy instead of saying, hey, here's the things Trump needs to cool down on. No. What do? Trump had a phone call with Ukraine. Impeach. No statutory crime. There's no governing crisis. Not with Trump. The only governing crisis you could technically argue with Trump is that he's, boorish, and he jumps the gun a bit too much, I guess. I don't know. But he was elected. He was elected for the character he is. He's a bull rampaging through the ivory tower. The economy is doing well, and that's what Americans voted for, and they got what they voted for. Trump hilariously said at a rally, he's the only president who's kept more promises than he's made. And I couldn't help but burst out laughing when I heard that because it literally makes no sense. And it's funny. And you know what, man? I see stuff like this where these people write, we must impeach Trump twice. And I'm just like, you're nuts. Calm down. You're not winning over anybody. Regular Americans right now are probably right now watching this video when this video comes out, sitting down to a nice Christmas Eve family outing or whatever, other holiday. Forgive me if I'm not, saying your holiday. I grew up with Christmas, so it's my worldview. But they're with family, they're opening gifts, they're or eating Chinese food or something like that, and they're having a good time. The economy is doing well. They're getting wage increases, and they're not shrieking about a governing crisis. That's you guys. That's Nancy Pelosi at war with the far left. That's Jeff Van Drew leaving the Democratic Party. That's Hawaii. What is it? A former politician, I don't know who, from Hawaii, calling for Tulsi Gabbard to resign. I got mad respect for Tulsi Gabbard for standing up for what she believes in and bucking the partisanship, saying no dice. I'm not playing that game. That's amazing. But it shows us the Democrats are having a governing crisis. Trump and the Republicans are unified. The economy is through the roof. What are you talking about? Second impeachment? All right, let's keep reading. The question has come up because of a court case involving former White House counsel Don McGahn, who defied a subpoena from the House Judiciary Committee to give testimony regarding the shocking findings of Robert S. Mueller III's investigation into the Russia scandal. Oh, here we go. Oh, they're bringing back Mueller. Do you remember Mueller's greatest hits? It was no obstruction, no determination on obstruction, and no Russia collusion. The greatest hits, which came out earlier this year, and what's happening? Literally bringing it all back up, and the Democrats did not file with the Supreme Court, okay, to rectify the problem of Trump saying executive privilege. Now, here's the way they frame it. They're saying, Trump told his people just don't testify. You can't do that. No, hold on. Trump claimed executive privilege. The executive branch has, communications they deem are privileged. They don't have to go and testify and share that information. You have a problem with that. Our founding fathers came up with a great solution. It's called checks and balances. You simply go to the Supreme Court. You say, here's our argument. The Supreme Court looks at it and says, you're right. Now, I do think it's fair to point out Trump and the Republicans in the Senate and Trump's administration, they've stacked the courts. And they got a very favorable Supreme Court. But it doesn't mean they're always going to win. The Supreme Court isn't, I don't have all the things, all the rulings pulled up, but they haven't always sided with Trump. I guess the Democrats think they would lose. They have no ground to stand on. And if that's the case, they shouldn't be doing this. If they really thought they had a case, they should have filed with the Supreme Court. They did not, okay? And I think that's fair. They didn't do it. But I'll tell you what's really nuts. The fact that here we are, they've already sort of impeached Trump, and now they're trying to re-invoke the Mueller investigation. I'm just so frustrated, right? You can tell I'm frustrated because I'm thinking about what am I supposed to tell my friends and family in 2020? Now, look, I know if you look over at Bernie, you look at Tulsi, you look at Yang, you know what they're all about. But who are they going to pick for their running mates? And what have the Democrats promised? And what are they offering in response to Trump? Everything that's happening right now with impeachment and with Mueller and this nonstop insanity from the press is creating this impression that while Trump and the Republicans are walking in lockstep with each other, unified, and the economy is doing really, really well, Trump is doing a little bit better on foreign policy. I mean a little bit because I'm very critical of what he's done in a lot of ways. But, at least he's going to bring back some of the troops. There's announcements of some troop withdrawals in Afghanistan and things like that. We still got to worry about Saudi Arabia. So it's kind of like wishy-washy. But the point is, he's getting the fence built, okay? It's not the big, beautiful 30-foot, concrete wall, but he's building a barrier. He's reduced illegal immigration, what he promised he would do. The economy is doing really well. Look, man, when you look over at what he's promised and the people who voted for him got what they wanted, what is this? What impression are you creating other than Trump is bad? It's like a parallel reality. He goes on to say, well, Democrats had many questions they wanted McGahn to answer. There was particular interest in one episode that seemed a clear case of obstruction of justice. According to Mueller's report in 2017, Trump ordered McGahn to fire Mueller, and McGahn refused and threatened to resign. Then later, Trump ordered McGahn to lie publicly about a newspaper article that accurately recounted the fact that Trump had told him to fire Mueller. Finally, Trump tried to get McGahn to create a false paper trail, claiming that his order to fire Mueller had never occurred. I'm going to stop right here. He says, according to Mueller's report in 2017. Okay, all of it may be true. Fine. I don't know. I'm not going to play games where the left is, they're going to come out and say, we know it's true. Trump did all these things. I'll tell you what. I always hear this argument that due to, the official opinion or whatever, Trump can't be indicted. I'm sorry. Listen, you cannot bring up the Mueller report again. It's done. It's over with, okay? It did not get you the bombshell report you wanted. There was no determination made on obstruction. There's a funny meme the conservative Trump supporters have. It says that Hillary Clinton did commit a crime, but she wasn't prosecuted or indicted because she didn't intend to. And so now they're saying that Trump didn't commit a crime, but he may have intended to. Therefore, he should be impeached, even though there's no statutory crime in impeachment. You see, the problem is, well, I am certainly no fan of the man. And if you have evidence, clear-cut evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, he actually did something. Not, you know what? Let me end that point, okay? If he did something, fine, by all means, get rid of him and Biden. I don't care. But I'll tell you what. The Mueller report, as far as we know now, is based on complete BS. The Steele dossier, they claimed they weren't using it, going after Carter Page. Look, I understand it's a really complex issue. I'll accept that. But let's get back to the task at hand. They're literally talking about a second impeachment of Donald Trump, and they're trying to use the Mueller report to do it. This, to me, shows they are truly desperate. They say, that series of events could and probably should have been the basis for another article of impeachment. But Democrats chose instead to focus on the articles on Ukraine. So in the current court case, the Justice Department has argued that now that impeachment articles have been approved, there's no longer any need for the courts to rush in to decide whether McGahn has to testify to the Judiciary Committee. Well, again, you could have filed the Supreme Court, sure. But in a filing to the Court of Appeals on Monday, lawyers for the committee said this: if McGahn's testimony produces new evidence supporting the conclusion that President Trump committed impeachable offenses that are not covered by the articles approved by the House, the committee will proceed accordingly, including, if necessary, by considering whether to recommend new articles of impeachment. They haven't even sent over the first articles, and they're already talking about another impeachment. Think about that. That's how insane the Democrats have become. What has Donald Trump truly done? The Russiagate thing was all fake. It was nonsense. It was conspiracy absurdity from the media for years. It was FBI misdirection and mistakes and lies. And the media pushing out this insane, since when did the media become whatever the FBI says must be true? But they did. So here's the thing, man. I don't like the idea that if Donald Trump, was being investigated, he tried to obstruct the investigation. I certainly don't. But I'm also confused as to why he would obstruct an investigation if what they say is true, if it was all based on lies and he literally didn't do anything in the first place. I also don't like the idea of, it reminds me of getting arrested for resisting arrest. I think that's so dumb. I've seen these videos, and I've been on the ground and I've seen this. A cop will grab somebody and then be like, you're under arrest. I'm like, for what? And they're like, resisting arrest. And they're like, how is that all you're arresting me for? I mean, it does technically make sense, but it still kind of doesn't. If you're not under arrest, how can you resist being under arrest? But, you get the point. They launch a phony investigation into Trump. Trump gets mad. He thinks he sees these people doing phony investigations and says, fire these people. They're wasting time and money on something that's fake. And then they say, that's obstruction. Think about how insane that is. If you ignore the Horowitz report and you look at what Mueller was investigating as if it was a legitimate and honest investigation, you might say Trump shouldn't have obstructed. When you realize now that Trump knew, he in all likelihood knew, his access to the information, that the Steele dossier and all this stuff is completely fake. Now he's got to deal with, he's got people that he's in charge of that are running a BS investigation with no merit. So he's like, get rid of them. I understand it's a conflict, a political conflict. So, here, I'll say this. I really, really want to avoid rehashing the Mueller stuff, but they're seriously calling for impeachment based on Mueller. It'll never stop. It will never stop. So even though I can show you, right, that Christmas shopping breaks a one-day record, Black Friday shattered a record. And right now, this is not necessarily a good thing, okay? But I want to show you this. The Fear and Greed Index from CNN Business showing that everything right now, 92, extreme greed, meaning people in the market are buying because they fully expect and want to get rich. This could inflate stocks. It could cause a crash. But the point is, the markets are doing really, really well. People expect to make a lot of money. Trump is doing well by what he offered people, okay? And that's recognizing, I'm going to say it for the 50 billionth time for all of you who watch me. Trump is a bad character. He says mean things, but I'll tell you what. They want to impeach him. They will never stop. And come 2020, the Democrats are facing a reckoning. We all saw what happened in the UK. We're seeing what's happening now in the markets. Who do they think they're preaching to? Well, I'll tell you this. The Washington Times says, awakening, black voters abandoned by Democrats warm to Trump. And while many people want to say there's no way the black community is going to vote for Trump, the Washington Times says that there are 3 polls. And let me just read you the opening paragraphs of this. They say, former NFL player Jack Brewer once raised campaign money for President Barack Obama, but now he's among the increasing number of black voters who supports President Trump. There is an awakening going on right now in this country, Mr. Brewer said, of black voters who traditionally support Democrats. I'm going to take the guy who's actually putting in the policies that are going to make life better for my young black son and my young black daughter versus somebody who gives me lip service, like, unfortunately, the Democrats have done for our community for years. Mr. Trump and his re-election team are aggressively courting black voters amid a strong economy that has reduced black unemployment to 5.5%, lowest in history. The Trump campaign launched its, quote, Black Voices for Trump coalition in Atlanta last month. They go on to talk about how there's some evidence the president's policies and campaign outreach are making inroads. 3 polls in November showed Mr. Trump's job approval rating among black voters in the 30 to 35% range, a significant increase over other surveys that have generally shown black voter support of less than 10%. Now, there are many progressives and leftists who refuse to believe it, but they're the people trapped in bubble world of Twitter. One of those polls was Emerson, and according to 538, they are the second most accurate poll. I believe it. I absolutely do. I think, I watched this really great, it was a really funny podcast clip where it was, I don't know who the guys were, but it was some black personalities, like some artists and podcast personalities. And they were explaining some of the offensive things Trump had said. The notorious leaked tape of where Trump said he could grab women. And he was explaining, he was like, dude, Trump's talking to his buddies about this girl who really, really wants him. And he explains it like, hey man, this girl, she's all up on me, whatever. I'm not gonna directly quote it because this is YouTube and my videos are particularly family friendly, but the point is, I'm not here to justify what Trump said. I don't like what he said. The point is, you now have urban youth, minority youth, younger people saying, you know what, man, the media's lying and they're misrepresenting who Trump is and what he's doing. And so when you look at what the Washington Post is saying, we may have to impeach twice. And then you look at what's actually going on in the polls. This is unprecedented. Now I'll tell you this. I believe it might be covered in this article. They talk about how, no, it's not this one. There's a different article that talks about Republican support from the black community was highest under George W. Bush following 9/11. And they said, yeah, but we kind of understand why. With these three polls, assuming they're accurate, because it's not just one poll, mind you, it's three. Trump has some of the highest approval rating from the black community than, any Republican in a really long time. And I think that says something. You look at these journalists who work for the Washington Post talking about how we must impeach Trump twice, re-invoking the Mueller Report. Their bubble is getting smaller and smaller. Because I'll tell you this, I think it's funny when people make jokes about me saying like, Tim, take the red pill, or like, when will Tim finally recognize and like abandon the Democrats? And I'm like, no, you don't get it. You don't get it. It's not about taking a red pill. It's about the fact that people like me, like regular, moderate, centrist, lefty types, we all see it too. There's just very few people like me who are active and politically engaged because Twitter and social media tends to show you the two polarized ends. And here I am somewhat in the middle saying things that Trump supporters typically nod to, kind of shrug and say, I disagree with you, Tim, but I hear what you're saying. Whereas the left is screeching, no, Trump must be impeached. Now, I'll tell you what, man, when it comes to my friends and my family, there's a shrug and confusion, and everyone seems to agree. I don't know, man, the economy is doing really, really well. So what do you think happens when you have black voters coming out in some of the largest numbers to support Trump? You have this record-breaking economy, but then the Democrats keep denying the reality of the economy. Eventually, people are going to say it's the Democrats who are lying, not Trump. And it's already happening with the press. People don't trust the press anymore. And I'm going to say it, man. I'm going to throw it back to that Vox article, and I'll wrap it up here. The Vox article straight up said, Matthew Iglesias, one of the co-founders, it's a lefty publication, it's progressive. The Democrats' only option is to deny the economy is doing well because they're not going to win. That's basically it. Their only option. And that's what they're doing. So how does it, that offends me. Because all they have to do is come out and say, look, we get it. Trump's done right by the economy. And this is why I like Andrew Yang. And Andrew Yang's coming up because he points out Trump's got these fixes. It's going to work. We need to think ahead. We need to think about automation. We need to think about what the future is going to hold. And Andrew Yang actually said no to the minimum wage increase, and he's running as a Democrat. I'm glad we got at least one guy who's actually forward thinking when it comes to progress and policy. I'm not saying he's perfect. Certainly not. I certainly don't think Trump is either. The fact remains, though, if you're going to have a bunch of Democrats on stage lying to your face, then telling you should impeach the president, the guy who's overseeing the longest economic expansion in U.S. history, I'm sorry, you're going to find your support tanks. We'll see what happens, though. Because I'll tell you this, Republicans, I'll tell you this, Trump supporters, don't underestimate how Trump's behavior is a net negative and could really, really hurt you and him. And let's just be a serious warning. It may be silly and funny when I go, oh, Trump's just a boorish man. No, look, I get it. You might think all these people have Trump derangement syndrome. They don't like the fact that Trump makes these crude and crass jokes because you like them. I can respect that. I love me some offensive comedy. So when I watch Trump, I get it. I also understand that the role of the president is not the role of a comedian. And while that benefits Trump in a lot of ways, his attitude is a net negative and could be a huge risk. Keep that in mind. So, I'll leave it there. This is a longer video than I expected, but hey, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for hanging out. Second impeachment. It's so funny. I wasn't convinced we'd make it to the first. We technically haven't, but here's number 2. So let it be said that the absurdity of the Democrats knows no bounds. I will see you all in the next segment at 6 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out. And again, I hope you're enjoying your time. If you find yourself sitting on a couch watching this on your phone alone in some room like I am, just know that you can be optimistic. Don't feel down. If you find yourself in this holiday season lonely, just remember, I'm also by myself for the most part. I mean, we'll see if I end up doing anything, but probably not. I'll be working as per usual. So thanks for keeping me company by watching my videos, and I hope you enjoyed the segment. I will see you all at 6 p.m.